I salute you all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. So basically, today we are under company law, which is business associations. And the topic of today, we are going to look at corporate personality. Corporate personality as in under company or under business associations. Realize that a company is a person. You get? It is a person extinct or distinct from the shareholders or its members. So basically, in this essence, we are going to look at some of the consequences of corporate personality. Consequences they can mean as, the consequences of incorporation. When a company is incorporated means a company to be registered. Let's just be guided that incorporation means a company to be registered. So basically, in this essence, we are going to look at that. That is the veil of incorporation. That's the gist of the point. And realize that even we have also an exemption to that rule, which is lifting up of the veil. But we shall look at it in another video towards the same. So today we are under corporate personality, and this can as well as mean that veil of corporation, veil of incorporation. Incorporation, I've told you earlier that it is registering a company. In the previous videos, we saw how a company can be registered, how really a company can come into registration. So in this essence, corporate personality, it means that a company standing alone is a person distinct from its members or the shareholders. And this definition was elevated, or it was brought in clearly when you read the case of Salmon versus Salmon. This is the landmark case in company law, when you realize that if you read it in details, because when you see that in its judgment, basically, because this was an appeal case, it went on several appeals, whereby you realize that the House of Lords is the one that finalized the wrangle, that the company was clearly registered. Realize that Salmon had a company, and this company was making shoes, something like that, making shoes, repair, among others. So Salmon retained some of the shares, and the rest of the shares, or the 6 shares that remained, he divided them among the wife and the wife and the four children, basically. So realize that it was in that nature. So basically, he got a loan, and this loan was to be paid on using the debentures. You get? So by the time he defaulted to pay, the people were like, they wanted to take over the company. The question was, could this liquidate the company, or it was solely on Salmon? So when you look at that essay, in the climax, realize that they held that the company was the one to take the liability, because Salmon was a member of the company, and the company was fully incorporated, which means that, as you shall look at the consequences under liability, that the company can be liable for the acts of the members, for the acts of the shareholders. So in that essence, that is the landmark case of Salmon versus Salmon under corporate personality. But basically here, what you have to know under corporate personality, that the company is liable. The company is liable. So that is the essence. So in this essence, we're going to look at some of the consequences. Some of the consequences of what? Of corporate personality. Basically, consequences, they can be like what comes after. What are the repercussions? What are the outcomes? If you register a company, what really happens? So that's what we are going to look at, that what really happens. Realize that in this essence, first of all, liability, the ability of the company. If a company is incorporated, the company is liable. In whatever aspect, the company is liable. So realize that I can give a relevant example that in this essence, or in the world that we are in, that if at all it is Coca-Cola, and I tell Coca-Cola that maybe at some extent, maybe the shareholders or the members of the company have made something that is not something that is not cool about maybe in their day-to-day work activities of the company. If maybe even a driver of the company, while he's driving a motor vehicle company, knocks down a passenger, realize that in this essence, it is the company that will be liable. not the driver. So basically, that is the veil of incorporation, that if the company is incorporated, it will take the liability of the members. It will take full liability. For example, we have the case of Centum versus UCB. Yeah, UCB. That case really gives that essence that for the act of the shareholders or the act of the members of the company lies the liability. It is the company that will take in court. It is the company that is liable for the acts of all members. Realize we have seen many cases, a lot of that. We have a lot of cases. For example, you see Ham versus DTB, you see Wava Holdings versus, among others. So realize that those companies that appear as plaintiffs or defendants, they are not actually physical in the act, but it is the members that acted on their behalf, hence making them liable or making them something like to be taken in court. So basically that is the liability. You also have another one, that legal proceedings. Legal proceedings basically here in this essence, under the second consequences of incorporation or veil of incorporation, that legal proceedings, the company can sue or be sued. That's the key point, the clear English that I can use basically. So here realize that the company can sue or be sued. In this essence, what we realize or what we are looking at is that the company in itself, it can start, maybe it can show a notice of, it can file in a notice of what? Intention to sue. So in this essence, what you have to know, that Coca-Cola can take you to court, obviously. It is you versus the company. However much there are people acting under the company. Or you, it is either the company versus you, or it is you versus the company. So, legal proceedings, if the company is fully incorporated, it can go for legal proceedings. We have the case of Uganda versus One versus Uganda Timber and Limited. One versus Uganda Timber Limited, realize that under this case, it is that the fact here is that where the plaintiff made the error that for me suing a member of the company for his acts, his statement, actually, how can I say, that realize that his intention to sue had no locus stand in it, had no locus, because the person that was suing had no capacity to stand in those proceedings. So realize that the legal proceedings can be made against the company, or the company can make legal proceedings against you, the person. Because corporate personality, a company is a person, distinct from the shareholders. So the company lies in what? In that perspective. Then we have also perpetual succession. Those that I know you have did family law, you know what succession means. Succession is that I've ended here, take over. You get, the company doesn't lose its existence when all members die. No, the company is distinct from other members. If all members die, there is someone that will succeed, that will take over. You get, that is perpetual succession. Once a company is incorporated, it will remain with its name, whether you are still existing or you are gone. For example, those that know sugar cane, those that did SST, I don't know. We have Madivan sugar plantations, but Madivan is no longer Mongo. Madivan died a long time ago. I don't know whether he died, why he went back to India, but what I know, he no longer exists. But the name of the company is still there. So basically, in that essence, realize that that is the perpetual succession. People take from where the person has ended. For example, the case of Renewal Tedman Holdings. Realize that here a car killed most of the people in the accident of the company, the directors, everything. The family died, but the people of the company and directors, members dying in the car accident didn't hesitate the company moving forward. Realize that the infant child who was the successor took over the company in that regard. So basically, note that in mind, or bear that in mind under perpetual succession. Then we also have another consequences, which is property, ownership of property. A company can own property. In that essence, the company can own what? Property. What do I mean by owning property? Anything that is owned by the company, it is neither for the members, it is neither for the directors, it is neither for the shareholders. Anything for the company remains for the company. You get, let me give an example. Let me give an example for which company that is famous. Let me use again Coca-Cola maybe. Yeah, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, maybe the soda we take, maybe the machines they use, maybe anything they use in the process there. Those machines belong to the company. The company has the capacity, has the power to own that property, in that essence. You get, there's a case of Makaura versus Northern Assurance Company Limited. That case of Makaura case is a good case. Under that essence, the Makaura case realized that the court held that the company, actually, the court held that no member has right to own the company's property. You get, that's why you realize that if you're working for the company, for example, I'm working for the company gave me the car, but that's not my car, it's the company's car. Once I resign the job, I return the property to the company because it is not mine, it is for the company. You get, so that case of Makaura gives that essence in that regards. You get. Then we also have the transfer of shares. Transfer of shares. In this essence, what we are realizing that the transfer of shares, the company can transfer shares. Once the company is fully incorporated, it can transfer shares. It can transfer shares to another person or another person. Realize that, let me give an example of MTN Uganda. MTN Uganda is a company incorporated or registered. Don't let the word incorporated confuse you. It is a company registered. So in this essence, all what we are trying to realize is that there's where at times that MTN made an advert that if you want to buy shares, please come over. You get. So realize that since MTN is incorporated, it can transfer its shares to the public or to other people, but it deals whether it is limited or unlimited. I think I explained that more in the video of types of companies where we have limited and unlimited. So basically that is the essence of the transfer of shares. Then you also have borrowing. The company can borrow in its own name. You get. What do I mean here borrowing? That if take for instance, let me give an example that some of the companies go in financial crises, so they borrow maybe in form of banks, what and what, in any way that you want to borrow funds from, maybe from government agencies, maybe in any sector. You use the name of the company. If it is Coca-Cola, you are borrowing money as Coca-Cola. However much we are director Matalo Simon Peter, you don't go to borrow as Matalo Simon Peter. I go to borrow as Coca-Cola company. You get. So basically note that in mind. Still, we shall use the case of Centamo versus UCB. UCB, that an individual member of the company doesn't have the audacity to borrow under his name, but he can borrow in the name of the company. So that case gives that essence. So we also have another consequences or repercussion of incorporation. We have the capacity to contract, basically. What do I mean that capacity to contract? A company, once it is incorporated, it can enter into any contract with anyone or with, because you contract, you know what's a contract, what are the elements of contract, we all know that. So basically in this essence, if you want to realize that, you have the capacity to contract in this regard. So in that essence, you have the capacity to contract, to enter into contracts, to sign contracts on behalf of the company, or the company to sign on its behalf. So basically, in this essence, it is a privilege to the company that is incorporated, that it can enter into contracts, it can be sued for breach of the contract, among others. We have the case of Rea Faras. This is a case that where the court was held that the company can enter into a valid contract with anyone or with any other company. Still under the capacity to contract, we have that case of Lee versus Lee and Air Farming Company Limited. Still also provides for that, for the capacity to contract. Actually, I'm giving these cases, but I don't want to internalize, but you can really go far once you get the whole citation of the case. So basically, that's the capacity to contract. Basically, these are some of the consequences of what? Of corporate personality. These are some of the consequences of corporate personality. So realize that, as I've earlier told you, that once a company is incorporated, realize that these are the outcomes. This is what happens. You get it. But however, the exemption that we have, it is lifting up of the veil of corporation, lifting up of the veil of incorporation. Basically, in this essence, realize that it is not the company that is liable. Now it is the person that is acting that is what? Liable. But however, details will come in another video, not in this video. But for this, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Stay blessed.